Let's go to the lounge. Welcome to the Chad Prather Show. It is Thursday. I'm glad everybody is here. That little snafu there at the beginning of the show is why I miss doing radio. Miss doing radio, man, because you couldn't see anybody. You didn't have to get dressed. I mean, you could sit there in your underwear, which technically I might be sitting here in my underwear right now. I used to love doing radio, man. Nobody could see you. You could just get in there. All right, folks, you're locked into WBLT 1776 AM, the only station brave enough to broadcast common sense without the warning label. I'm telling you, we should go back. We should do Before the Noise for an hour in the mornings, and then we should dovetail it straight into the Chad Prather Show while everybody's still watching, and boom, we got more numbers, we got all this kind of stuff, and then people can kind of come in when they want to. I'd go 3 hours, man. I think realistically we could do 2. We just do Before the Noise, the Chad Prather Show, just go right into it, and I can hear producer David grumbling and cursing under his breath. Just treat it like a radio show. I mean, my gosh, everybody else is doing it, right? We're going to broadcast common sense without a warning label. This is a Chad Prather Show, transmitting live somewhere between the Constitution and whatever just broke the internet 5 minutes ago. That's right. This is the part of the program where WBLD is legally required to inform you that the opinions expressed on this show may cause uncontrollable laughter, aggressive agreement, or sudden clarity. Side effects include nodding in traffic, yelling exactly at your windshield, and wondering how this is the only station saying this out loud. WBLD, 1776 AM. You guys are like, what in the world's going on? Throw those dancing bananas in there, man. I'm glad to see you guys in the Rumble live chat. If you're over on Facebook, YouTube, X, wherever you may be, glad you're here. You know, Trump derangement syndrome. I was looking at it this morning. Actually, I want to share with you guys what I did do after Before the Noise. I went downstairs and I made breakfast. I made some venison steaks. And I want to show them to you here in a second. I'm going to call for them. Went downstairs, got out the cast iron. I didn't fire up the grill. And I I marinated some red stag that I harvested. That's the nice way to say it on YouTube. I harvested a red stag up in Wisconsin back in November. And I ate that sucker this morning. Not all of it. He's a big old boy. Pull those steaks up, David. Let me show them what I did this morning. That's the red stag. That's not how I ate him. But that is him. Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he beautiful? Gonna look good on the wall, too. That'll offend some of you. Don't care. Pull up the steaks. Show that beautiful bean footage. Look at that sucker. You say, that looks too rare. No, that's venison, baby. That's lean meat. That's lean. That sucker is done. Some of you say you can't eat it. And then I made a little gravy. You see the gravy on the right. I made that. I had a little bit of that butter. Used some almond flour. A little buttermilk. Yeah, I used buttermilk on this gravy. A little boop, 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 boop. Put it on there. So good. That was breakfast this morning. Before the Noise. Oh, boy, I'm telling you what. I told you guys on Before the Noise, we're doing the men's retreat. We're going to do a men's gathering, Before the Noise men's gathering. We're going to do it the last weekend of August. We're going to do it in Mineral Wells, Texas, right on the Brazos River. That is just west of Fort Worth. I'm going to do it. One of my mentors, Dudley Hall, is going to be there. It's his ranch, Tesoro Escondido, Spanish for hidden treasure. And it is a beautiful 330-acre spread out there on the Brazos. Incredible bluff, rough country out there, but they've got a beautiful lodge, bunkhouses, all the stuff. And a lot of people have sent me messages already saying, is it going to be too expensive? Can I afford it and stuff like that? I'm going to tell you this. You're going to have to take care of your travel. And then the thing, depending on what your accommodations is, if you stay in the bunkhouse, it'll be one price, a double occupancy, another price. If you got to live like the king and you got to have a single occupancy suite, then that's going to be more. But I'm telling you, we're going to price this thing, the whole deal, even if you go to the top of the line, it'll be under $1,000. And we're going to spend the weekend together. We're going to hang out. We're going to do some teaching. We're going to sit around the fire. We might shoot some stuff. It's going to be cool, man. If you've ever been to, some of you guys, maybe by chance, you've been to out to the Tesoro Escondido Ranch, and it'll just be us out there. Our group, hoping for about 40 people. I'm only opening it up to about 40 men. We're going to do that. I'll be there. Party Foul Steve will be there. We get David out there, too. We're going to get some folks, man. It's going to be a good time. But I was doing a little research this morning. I was just kind of thinking. The thought crossed my mind during cooking those venison steaks is, has the Trump administration contributed to this rise, and I think it has been a rise, in what we can call protest culture? And while I think the answer is yes, you can't isolate it and say everything is Trump's fault that everybody's taken to the streets, at least not in a simple cause and effect way. That's my opinion. Because I think the presidency of Donald Trump, let's go all the way back to the first administration, it coincided with and sort of accelerated, and in some cases maybe even exposed, some of the forces and dynamics that were already building in American society. I mean, you can't blame Trump any more than you can blame social media, and you might be able to blame both of those to a degree, but all of those things, they hold hands together, and so there's several dynamics that are creating the chaos in the world that we're experiencing right now. Because I want to talk to you about this idea of Trump calling for the Insurrection Act in Minneapolis and what's going on. Some people hear that and they think, oh, we're headed to martial law. There's a massive difference between martial law and the Insurrection Act. I'll break that down for you in a little while. But I think that when Trump got elected, he functioned as a cultural accelerant. He wasn't the original spark. Now, we can talk about TDS and Trump derangement syndrome. People, whether you're on the left or right, psychologically, they have those issues. And so if you go back a million years ago, actually just 10 to 2016, you had protest culture that was growing already. You had Occupy Wall Street, remember that? You had the Ferguson protests. You had a lot of campus activism that was going on. But then you had the online outrage cycles that were happening, which predated Trump. So Trump comes along, and he's got a certain rhetoric, right? He's got a certain style. He got a constant media presence. And so the fire was sort of lit. They just kind of poured some fuel on it. So what I'm trying to explain is something that you probably can already embrace, and the fact that polarization in our country didn't happen because Donald Trump came along. Now, it might have intensified simply because Trump refused to soften his language or embrace some institutional or political norms. And so what he did is he became a threat symbolically, which was way bigger than any policy specifics. That's why when guys like David go out on the street in Portland, Oregon, and ask people, okay, what is your specific problem you have with this? Or a number of our friends go out and they put the microphone in people's faces. They can't explain to you what problems they have with Trump policies. Like, they don't even know what the Trump policies are. But symbolically, Trump became a threat. And so for a lot of people in America, Trump represented he didn't represent a list of policies, but he became to embody those fears that people were already holding on to, like deportations or demographic changes, or cultural displacement, or loss of certain elite authority. You know, Hollywood suddenly was challenged by that. That's why they're so bent out of shape. And a lot of the progressive moral narratives that were getting kind of pass in the media under the Obama administration, suddenly people got threatened. And so a lot of people got mobilized under this symbolic threat who historically might not have protested a specific legislation, but they felt this existential alarm. Orange Man was bad. And then the media amplified all of that stuff and turned people's protests literally into their identity. People are making $100,000 a year or more. They're making six figures to show up at these protests. So whether it's legacy media or social media platforms that thrive on conflict, we already know that, the protests became just performative. It became activism in a different mask or wrapped in a different flag. It was identity forming, and then it became socially rewarding. Just being against Trump became a moral badge. It wasn't a political stance anymore. So the constant cycle of outrage just ensured that the protest culture didn't just flare up and fade. It became sustained. So it's here to stay. This crap you're seeing on the news, it's here to stay. Unless God intervenes, and I pray that he does. So, and by the way, you can't just look at the progressive left. I mean, there's protests on the right too, because one's going to react to the other. That's why you have these political influencers that are going into those protests and trying to get footage. They're inserting themselves in the story, which I don't think is always a good thing to do, but they do it. And so what happens is you got both sides validating each other's sense of emergency and urgency. And so now protests have become a form of reciprocal escalation rather than just some isolated dissent. Like before social media, you had to put some time and effort and energy and fill out the paperwork and show up and do all these things to have an actual protest. Now you just change your profile picture and say, I stand with Ukraine. And so you look at something like Trump derangement syndrome, and well, it's just cognitive distortions, man. I mean, what we've got is we have affective polarization, this emotional hostility. We don't care about policy disagreement anymore. You don't just oppose Trump and his policies. You have to look at him and experience him as a moral contaminant. He's poison to society, right? That's the way these people look at it. Get in their heads for a minute. It's a jumble mess. It sounds like a bowling alley in there. But their emotional response always precedes rational evaluation. Now, I'm telling you that because I don't want you to fall into that. And so now every action, every statement, every event gets interpreted as the most catastrophic thing possible. I mean, if it comes out and says, hey, Trump may, do the Insurrection Act, oh my God, authoritarian collapse, the world is ending. And what that does, it's mirroring the anxiety that drives our cognition and understanding about our world. And so the nervous system is scanning for danger all the time. And what we do is we fill in the gap with the worst case assumptions. We've seen too many end of the world movies, man. And we've now personally fused our identity in just being opposed to whatever Trump does. I mean, I get so sick of it. Like to think that every single thing that happens on the global scale, every decision out there somehow ties itself back to one dude named Donald Trump. That's some pretty hefty lifting logically. And God forbid you criticize the narrative, because that becomes a personal attack. Now you're in a fight with somebody. And you can't debate anybody because that's going to trigger rage, not dialogue. And now we got confirmation bias on steroids because our information that we get is filtered exclusively through that reinforce the threat narrative. And if somebody contradicts something with facts, well, that's propaganda. That's conspiracy theory. That's moral corruption. You must be licking the boot, kissing the ass, whatever. Fill in the euphemism. And so now we've gotten ourselves into some moral absolutism, man. And that's what I want to talk about today. I got to quit talking because I could go off on this. And I've already preached to you for an hour this morning. Let me tell you about my friends. Well, I'll say some more about it. But let me tell you about Birch Gold. Do this for me. Text Chad to 989898. That's the phone number. Our friends over at Birch Gold will give you a free, no-obligation information kit on how You can diversify your future retirement plans, your IRA, tax sheltered, backed by physical gold. They got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They're a great company, trustworthy, tens of thousands satisfied customers. If you got that old retirement plan, it's not doing anything or it's tied into the stock market, you need to roll something over, got savings, whatever, talk to them over at Birch Gold. All you got to do is text my name. Do that for me. Grab your phone, and the phone number is 989898. You put that at the top, and then you send a text message. CHAD, and they'll do the rest, okay? They'll send you what you need. Talk to them. We got a lot of folks to talk about today as far as I'm going to start doing just a sponsor show, man. Let's, I'm watching David load up these headlines, and I'm like, how are we going to get to all this stuff? Well, the guy's going to help me do it. He's everybody's Party Foul Steve. What's up, buddy? What's going on?
Hey, I'm under a Rumble outage. I'm not in the chat. I can't get on from my phone, my other laptop, anything. Rumble's just spinning. Nothing.
You turn it off, turn it back on, dude.
I've already done all that. It says it's a bad gateway. And I looked up Rumble outages, and it's showing the Houston area with a Rumble outage.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. So if there's, well, I would say, hey, if you're in the Rumble chat and you don't have a signal, put it in there. But obviously, you would have it.
Yeah, well, you can join us over on it. Might just be you, Steve. Might just be Conroe, Texas.
Might be,
and,
but can't do it from my phone. I can't do it off Wi-Fi or on Wi-Fi with my phone. So,
yeah. Well, and if you're a troll, delete yourself. Party Foul Steve.
Just delete yourself.
Just
free reign
silence
today.
Yeah. Did you see my steaks? You see my venison steaks,
I did
Steve?
see that. You got to work on your plate presentation a little bit. You know, you want to clean off that. See the picture on the left? You got to clean that.
I don't have to. I just cut the steak and took a bite, dude.
Put it on a bed of lettuce or something.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Let's put some drizzle on there.
It was good, dude. It was
looks
good.
Great. It looks amazing.
Nice and lean. People see venison and they hear venison and they're like, I don't know about that. Pretty doggone good though.
I'll post a picture later of me processing some venison. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you processed your own deer, didn't you?
Yeah, I process. Well, these days I process everything that we kill. So it's but I'm not going to do a cow though. If I butcher a cow, it's going to the market.
That's a lot of work, dude.
Yeah, that's a deer takes long enough, and if you got 2 or 3 deer stacked up, you got to process. It becomes work.
Well, I have 8 boxes. 2 more boxes of sausage showed up yesterday. So I will see you next week, Steve. I'm coming to Conroe. We're going to be there. Yeah. Is Carl coming?
Yeah, he's coming, and I'm going to actually enjoy the show because I'm going to sit down. I'm going to be an audience member and actually pay attention to what Chad Prather and the Ragamuffins bring to the show.
At the Conroe show in Conroe, I've got stories that I've never told from the stage I'm going to tell. And some are Ragamuffins and some are just recent stuff in the last year or so. I'm going to tell some stories. It's going to be good. Lucy Blues is an awesome place. Cody Johnson's parents is who we're talking about. Our friend Cody Johnson. You guys know Kojo. If you don't know who Cody Johnson is, you've been living under a rock. But his dad, his parents are going to come to the show. We're going to get them to sing a little bit.
Do they know that? Did you ask them yet, or do you want me to?
Nah, they're just going to do it.
Yeah, they will. We'll
put them on the spot.
Both of them are beautiful, beautiful singers. Cody didn't accidentally learn how to sing.
Yeah, Cody didn't fall into that talent. And Cody's a good singer. I mean, he's phenomenal. Yeah. Like, he's next level. So, so anyway, they're going to come. I'm glad they are. I haven't seen them in a little bit, so I'm glad they're coming out. But we'll be at Conroe, and then the next night in Kemah, Texas at Jackie's. Used to be Jackie's Brick House. I think it's Jackie's Bar and Grill now. It's a really cool music venue down there. And then Granbury, Texas, back at on the 31st on the city square there. Come on over. That's going to be a good time. All right, Steve, I'm looking at all this stuff. And are you still doing your Make Wellness?
Yeah, I'm actually drinking some Hydrate right now. So
I love that stuff, man. I love that stuff. I got to tell everybody, though, before we go any further, let me get this out of the way. There's another product out there, and it's called Lean. Not to be confused with our Make Wellness stuff. You guys know Brickhouse Nutrition. You can go to takelean.com, and use code CHAD. I spell it Chad for 20% off. This is a pretty cool little supplement right here. Not to be confused with the peptides that we talk about, but this is something right here. If you need to lose, that 10 or so pounds, and you keep putting the pounds back on, that's what the doctors call weight cycling. And it's tough for your body to regulate all of that stuff. This is something created by doctors, oral supplement, not an injection. And it maintains healthy blood sugar, helps control your appetite and cravings. It helps burn fat by converting it to energy. Burning fat helps keep the weight off. So go check them out. 20% off when you enter Chad at takelean.com. Our friends at Brickhouse Nutrition, they've been friends for a long time. So all their stuff is so good. So this is a good one right here. It's a good one. Takelean.com. Use code Chad. All right. European troops have arrived in Greenland amid Trump interest. A lot of people have said we've already bought Greenland. Nobody knows it yet.
I heard they added a dog sled and some dogs or something. That was what they brought over. I don't know.
Trump said Greenland's defense was 2 dog sleds, which I'm sure got the ladies at the View all turned on, fired up, since they're a bunch of dogs. I shouldn't say it, but I said it. But yeah, they're European troops. So what are we going to do? What's the downside? They kick us out of NATO, and we don't have to pay billions of dollars to NATO anymore, and Europe can take care of their own crap? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's the downside here.
I can guarantee you Europe doesn't want the United States to get out of NATO or any of that, because as China and Russia are both trying to move into South America. They're going to try to move into Greenland. They're trying to get everything they can. It's a land grab. That's what we do as human beings, is grab another piece of land and get bigger, try to be bigger and stronger than the other people.
Yeah. So if you look at that headline, Germany sent 13 people? They sent 13 personnel.
Yeah.
And France deployed 15 mountain specialists to bolster territory's defenses.
What are they? I don't see what they're bolstering with 15 people. Ridiculous.
They're just putting reconnaissance teams out. There's the bottom line.
Yeah, just to see if we're already there. What if we've already set up camp there?
Yeah. So, Europe. All you got to do is cut off their funding on some things, and I know that's oversimplified. Trump called out the EU for fining American companies. Trump ain't messing around. Hit them in the wallet, man. Taxing European tech companies for fines on American tech companies. EU fines on the U.S. companies $3.8 billion. EU taxes on their companies $3.2 billion. Trump says this is unfair. Screw the EU. So, none of it's fair at this point. Just look at all that share in Apple right there, man. Bam. So Trump posted this. He said EU makes more. Go back down to that graphic. He said makes more from fines on the U.S. tech than attacks from all our public European tech. Steve's a butterfly fly by. Would you lose?
It's a fly. I just caught a fly and slammed him to the ground. He'll probably be back in a minute.
He'll be back. Yeah. So anyway, there's that. Trump's announced new sanctions on Iran. Honestly, when I went to bed last night, I wouldn't have been surprised if we'd have woken up and were smacking them around in Iran. So play this clip.
I'm going to tell you that information that just got released by the Trump administration. It was embargoed until 10:30 a.m. And I can now read you that information. I'm going to bring it to you right now, just as it is breaking. Secretary Bessent announces sanctions against architects of Iran's brutal crackdown on peaceful protest. Again, the Treasury Department has just announced new sanctions on those linked to the planning of this crackdown against Iranian demonstrators. This is quite a lengthy press release that we received earlier today that was under embargo, but there are a number of names of commanders from the IRGC and other officials and organizations that appear to be linked, not just in Iran, but also in the region.
This guy does the news sort of like I do this show.
His setup was longer than the actual news.
He's getting the news as he's giving the news. Like, that's sort of the way I do it around here these days.
I would think they would already have so many embargoes against them. Maybe I need some explanation what an embargo is because we're going to put embargoes. Like, how many can you have?
Well, I mean, you can have a lot of them, actually. I mean, when you think about how ingrained and intertwined we are with all these other countries of the world and how, like, this really is it really is a global, symbiosis sort of thing that's there. There's so much tentacles all over the place with all these different deals. So,
well, what I was kind of asking is, with all the trade and so how much trade are we actually doing with Iran in and out? And so, are those embargoes placed on our trade that we trade in and out?
well, Steve, I always say I gotta talk to you about the questions you ask on the show. See, normally what you're supposed to do is ask questions that you already have the answers to. Like you've looked up, how much trade are we doing with Iran? And then you ask that, because otherwise we're going to find ourselves looking it up like I'm doing right now.
Well, no, they'll look it up for us in the chat. That's kind of knowledge that I would think, someone of your brilliant mind, you probably already have in the back of your mind somewhere because you do have a lot of information.
Not really. In 2024, we exported $90 million in goods. We imported from Iran $6.2 million.
I mean, why are we still doing business with these terroristic countries, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well.
Shut it down. Stop it. Well,
that's the whole point.
That's the whole point. They should already been stopped 25 years ago. Since the 70s.
Yeah. Well, in a nutshell, here's why, to answer your question. So there's good civilians in Iran, contrary to what a lot of narrow-minded Americans want to think. There's some good people in Iran. They're under a dictatorial, theocratic regime. These people live under coercion. They live under just horrible, horrible deal. So the sanctions, when you put those on there, or embargoes, you want to punish the regime, but you don't want to starve the people, right? Because they're already in a deal. And if you have these people that you need to be able to take care of over there, I mean, again, it's a compassion thing. So, you got to give them enough to survive, but not enough that they can go out and fund global terror.
So we need to crush the regime. And we're going to do it with embargoes. Why not do what they did to Venezuela? Just go in there and take.
Because we're not dealing with Venezuela. Iran is very different on a war scale than, say, Venezuela is. Iran does have the ability to reach out and touch somebody, and so that could cause a lot of conflict. And plus, you got to be careful because you don't want to change the wave of public opinion about the great Satan, America, or the West. There's a lot of people over there who are protesting because they're wanting some of the values that we value. And that's why they're doing it. And that's why Trump said, listen, if you shoot anybody, you hurt anybody that's protesting, we're going to come for you. Now, Iran didn't listen to that. And the other day they did take some people off the street.
I was going to say they took some people off the street. And my understanding is they have some people they're scheduled to execute and they don't waste any time. Their punishment is swift.
Right, which is why you've got to handle this thing delicately. It's got to be surgical. It can't just be we're going to go in there and snatch, the Khomeini out of his bed in the middle of the night like we did with Maduro. So again, is maximum pressure on the regime, minimum pressure on or harm to the civilians. So it's a bad deal. And so again, globally, whether you like a nation or not, and we facetiously make fun of these European countries sending folks to Greenland, we do have an economic partnership globally that can ultimately affect us. And so you got to be careful how you have that controlled containment on all of it. So, yeah, you go back and you look at pictures of Iran where the girls are in bikinis on the beach back in the 70s. I mean, 1972, 50 years ago.
Well, back in my hospital days, I'd worked with some Iranians. They were really great people, good people that loved America and Americans,
Yeah. So it's a delicate situation, this there. Delicate situation. All right, let's take a look at these anti-ICE rioters. I'm not even calling them protesters anymore.
No, they're paid rioters.
They're rioters at this point. And people say, well, they have a right to protest. But this ain't that, man. So they break into ICE agents' vehicles. They're stealing documents. These documents contain, names, addresses, confidential information. This is doxing type information here. So this is the kind of thing where this literally becomes, what are you going to do with that information, guys?
This right here is on Governor Walz.
100%. He's lost total control of his state.
Yeah. He let his city burn down in what, 2020?
And opened up the windows, according to his wife, so they could smell the rubber burning and be reminded of the oppression that's out there. So these people, now, if you were outraged by January 6th or whatever, like this right here, this is bad news. This can't be allowed to happen. Tim Walz, his court systems, his Jacob Fry in Minneapolis, all of these people that are out there, the mamby-pamby, they've lost all control. They do need to invoke, if this is the way it's going to be, and obviously this is the way it's going to be. Didn't you tell me Tim Walz's clip got taken down off of YouTube? It got banned?
Well, it got taken down because of technical issues.
Yeah.
But it wasn't technical issues. He called for what he's got.
Yeah.
So when your governor of your state's telling you to stand up to the federal government,
well,
that's insurrection.
Every day, every moment that people can get away with this without consequences. Let me look at these animals. Look at them.
Yeah, and where's
you get away with this, and you think that this is okay.
Where's the
They're
police
in
department?
federal vehicles. So again, stick them under the jail.
Where's the Minnesota State Police? Where's the Minneapolis Police? Nowhere in sight that I've seen.
There's another one where these guys that want to ban your gun ownership, by the way, they stole government-owned weapons. And again, people are going to say, well, this just looks like January 6th. No.
No, nobody took any weapons in there.
These are a bunch of spoiled, rotten kids who's waiting on mama to deliver the meatloaf to the basement, and they need their ass beat. They really do. And the thing is, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want to compare, compared to January 6th, I would say that Governor Walz opened the doors and let them take a tour of their streets in the middle of ICE stuff. And that's kind of what happened at the Capitol, right? They opened the doors and gave them tours. Well, they're having a tour of Minneapolis.
Toss stun grenades in the middle of them and tear gas. You got these Democrat lawmakers who are actually encouraging this. Benny Johnson posted this. Play the clip.
If there were neighbors and others who came out to help this person, that is just...
Stop. What is that? What is that? What is that coming out of that turtle? What is that? What is that? That is what your toilet seat. What is that? What am I looking at? Is that a man or a woman?
I don't know. That camera angle is something else.
All right, play the clip.
Others who came out to help this person. That is just an example of Minnesota being a place where we help our neighbors. And we are clear that the ICE agents have been coming here, and there's over 2,000 of them. And they've been attacking and terrorizing our state. So, yes, neighbors will come out and be helpful. I'm not certain if they had brooms or shovel. That is to be further investigated.
If they did, in fact, have some sort of weapons to use to attack the ICE officer, would that change your opinion of whatever unfolded next?
Actually, no, right? Because from our vantage point, we wanted to make sure and always wanted to make sure that Minnesotans are being dealt with properly. And when we think in terms of any pursuit or any apprehension of anyone, there's a way for you to do your work where it's respectful and it's fair.
All right. So boy, girl Bobby there, who's a state senator in Minnesota, said it doesn't matter. They got weapons, doesn't matter, right? That comment alone should result in an absolute immediate removal from office. I can't go out and say that. Steve, you can't go out and say that publicly.
No, you can't.
I can't say that it's okay for these rioters. If you don't condemn attacking cops, even when weapons are involved, you're not advocating protest at this point. You're pandering violence. You're laundering violence. You're pushing violence out there. And that needs to be, send in the Marines at this point, Steve.
Yeah, do it. Let them. Them riders. Yeah, the Marines they would be ready. They would love it. They would go right in. So.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about the Insurrection Act here in a little bit. I'm going to talk to you about what I think needs to happen. They've lost all control. And people don't know what the Insurrection Act is. People don't know what it is. They think, we're about to have martial law. It's not martial law. Riley Gaines, our friend Riley Gaines, had to wrap her baby in a bulletproof blanket. Play this clip. It's crazy.
On the Supreme Court steps. And honestly, just as you said, there's a level of emotion to it, especially when you have to consider the fact you have a 3-month-old baby that you have to wrap in a bulletproof blanket because of the threats that were present there yesterday.
Yeah.
That is who we're fighting for. And all these Democrats and their insane policies and the things they say and the things they support, I think 130 congressional Democrats signed a brief supporting the boys in the case. They think they're giving the middle finger to President Trump. That's not who they're giving the middle finger to. They are giving the middle finger to my little baby girl, again, who you have to wrap in like a little bulletproof vest, because the other side, and again, talking about what we saw visibly on the Supreme Court steps, our rally, again, I call it the pro-woman, pro-reality, pro-science, pro-fairness, pro-truth, pro-safety side of the aisle. We weren't even 50 feet from those who were there to support the pro-trans agenda.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. We got to be praying for the people that are out there in the public, like Riley Gaines, us.
What I really don't understand is why these people think ICE is like a brand new thing. And because it was created in the Bush administration.
Yeah, well.
So it's been going on under 3 or 4 presidents now. Yeah. We've had ICE for the last, close to, I guess, 20 years anyway, 25 years.
Well, I go back to what I said earlier about how this stuff didn't start with the Trump administration. It didn't start with the Trump administration. What we're seeing is out and out violent rhetoric, violent activity, violent action, calls for violence, not only on the part of rioters and protesters on the left, but Democratic lawmakers. This is overall, they want you eradicated from the face of the earth.
Yeah, but
that's a fact. They want you gone. They want you eliminated because they labeled you, categorized you. They want you gone. What are we going to say?
Trump derangement syndrome has entered the building.
Well, and again, like I said, it's a psychological thing. He became a symbolic threat. And I get people every single day who are like, you're just a bootlicker for Trump. No, I've called Trump out on things. I've called the administration out. I think I've been reasonably fair-minded. I can tell you this. I don't want Kamala Harris. I'm glad she didn't win the thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
I didn't want Tim Walz. Look at Tim Walz. The dude can't control his own state. You wanted him to be the vice president? You want that dude to be in charge of the Senate, for crying out loud?
But he can fix his own truck, Chad.
He's a man's man. He can't load his gun, his shotgun. But yeah, you wanted that? I like the Trump administration is what we have. I don't look at these guys as some symbolic threat. Even when Barack Obama or even Joe Biden, I forget about that dude. So does he. But you got a guy like Joe Biden. I didn't see them as a symbolic threat. I could actually tell you the policies that I had a problem with. I believe in conservatism because I actually know the policies and why I believe in them and defending them. And so there we are. All right, listen, Patriot Protect, scammers, criminals. They don't have to break into your car, man. They raise the stakes. last year. This year is going to be no different. The choice is yours. You can act or you can stay exposed. You saw those kids breaking into those cars, stealing those documents. Let me tell you something. The threats to your privacy and security have become more powerful than ever, more precise, and they've actually gotten harder to stop. Some didn't just increase; they leapt forward in complexity completely when AI began cloning voices. So now text messages started sounding like family and friends, and emails impersonating banks pull people in. A lot of people are getting scammed out there, and they weren't chosen at random. I'll tell you that. People that get scammed. Your personal information is being targeted. Your name, address, your phone number, your family members, your age, your online behavior, all that's publicly available online right now. It's not hidden. It's not even hard to find. It's actually published out there, believe it or not. You can simply just Google your name and your address. You're going to find some shocking things. There's lots of data brokers out there that are openly listing where you live, who you live with, and how to contact you. And scammers are deciding who to target. So you need Patriot Protect. It's crazy. Tens of millions of people were affected by the Ticketmaster breach all by itself. And cities' utilities were crippled by ransomware that exposed residential data. It's bad, dude. Patriot Protect is going to scour the internet. They're going to make you hidden, okay? They're going to make you hidden. Go to patriot-protect.com/chat. I'm a customer of theirs, have been for 2 years now. And let me tell you, it made a huge difference. You can use promo code CHAD, get 15% off. You can use promo code CM50 there. Either one of them works. But go to patriot-protect.com/Chad. Use promo code CHAD off. 15% off the yearly subscription. Works out to about $6-7 a month. You can't afford not to have it. All right? You need to have it. Oh, boy. Tim Walz. What a pinhead, dude. Look at what he said. Look at what he said. This guy's a abject moron. Play the clip.
What's happening in Minnesota right now defies belief. News reports simply don't do justice to the level of chaos and disruption and trauma the federal government is raining down upon our communities. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at our schools, they're breaking windows, dragging pregnant women down the street, just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans.
Yeah, that's what
Kidnapping
happened.
innocent people with no warning and no due process. Let's be very, very clear. This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government. This week, he went online to promise that, quote, the day of retribution and reckoning is coming. That's a direct threat against the people of this state who dared to vote against him 3 times and who continue to stand up for freedom with courage and empathy and profound grace.
Why is he not in jail? Why? I mean, Tim Walz, just 2 weeks ago, we were talking about billions in fraud that was being funneled and laundered through his state. He's directly responsible for that, and now he's going to turn around and try to make this about ICE agents that are just indiscriminately pulling people over, dragging pregnant women down the street, and just throwing U.S. citizens into vans?
Yeah, the fraud, you're not hearing near the amount of news about the fraud. And what you're not hearing anything about Epstein either. That's gone off the, Well,
I mean, again, everything is all about protecting this or protecting that. I mean, it's nobody's talking about anything that people care about.
Yeah. Nobody's talking about the Clintons not showing up for their hearing.
Yeah, I mean, you and I'd be in jail. They got subpoenaed. They skipped their hearing appearance, and you and I'd be in jail for skipping that.
Yeah.
But again, Tim Walz, the boldness of Tim Walz to come out and flip the script and now say, okay, I'm going to tell you what's going on in Minnesota, and it's all the Trump administration's fault. I mean, that's different from the Epstein files or even the Clinton thing, because now he's coming out like nothing happened, and he's going to try to still bolster support when he's defrauded, defamed, defaced. I mean, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And going to sit out there and tell you. Now, I'm going downtown tonight. I'm going downtown. And I can assure you I will not be worried that I'm going to get arrested and dragged into a van indiscriminately.
Not by ICE.
No. No. And there are people who want to say, because I made the little clip about Joe Rogan, we took him out of context on his show where he said, hey, we don't want Gestapo people walking down the street just snatching people off. And I made a clip and I said, Joe, are you disagreeing with, the ICE deal? And no, Joe was making a broader point. I get that. But, I said, I can look out my window. I facetiously said I can look out my window. I don't see anybody getting snatched. Now, again, that's humor, hyperbole to make a point. A lot of people came at me about that. But I said, okay, pull the numbers. Pull the numbers. In the last year, 9,000 have been arrested and many of those deported. Out of the 9,000, 170, only 170 were U.S. citizens. Now, you say, well, that's one too many. It's way less than what happened under the Biden administration, way less than what happened under Obama's administration. And by the way, those administrations deported way more people than the Trump administration ever dreamed of doing.
Honestly, I think Trump's way behind.
Way behind.
And he's actually not deporting enough of them fast enough.
Well, and again, because everything has to be done specifically and legally and in a certain way. What's happening here is moving a whole lot slower than the deportation process that happened under the deporter-in-chief named Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Let me be clear.
Obama built cages for kids.
He sure did.
And we're not building cages for kids. Maybe that's the problem.
Sure did. So Tim Walz to come out and do that is, again, 170 compared to 9,000 out of the 35 million people, I'm guesstimating, in America right now. Only 170 have been detained long enough to be able to prove that you're an American citizen, and then you were let go. 170 out of 35 million people in the country. I think we're doing okay.
Yeah.
I don't see, but now you got the rioters out there in the streets in Minneapolis. Now Trump is saying he's threatening the Insurrection Act. This is straight out of the White House. He says if corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I'll institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me. Quickly put an end to the travesty that's taking place in a once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
The biggest thing you have to get from all of this is they're not out there protesting ICE. They're protesting Trump. This has nothing to do with ICE. This is just the method that they're going to, the excuse they'll use.
Well, I go back to the beginning. I go back to the beginning of what I said. Trump became a symbolic threat for people. Now, Kristi Noem came out just this morning, and she confirmed this. Play this clip.
A violation of the law in many places. I discussed with the president this morning several things that we are dealing with under the department and different operations. We did discuss the Insurrection Act. He certainly has the constitutional authority to utilize that. My hope is that this leadership team in Minnesota will start to work with us to get criminals off the streets. Remember, we are there in surged operations because of the largest fraud scheme in American history. A violation of the law in
All right. So there you go. And again, I see some of you guys in the chat that want to say that Trump's trying to institute martial law. Insurrection Act is not martial law. He wants to suspend the midterms. You guys have been throwing that crap out there for ages. Trump's going to run for a third term. We'll never get rid of him, right? Yeah, stop. You're so stupid. So stupid. Listen, when you have the Insurrection Act, that was instituted, by the way, in 1807. That's when the Insurrection Act was ratified. State or local authorities, if they cannot or will not protect constitutional rights, if you can deem it an insurrection or a rebellion or domestic violence, and it's overwhelming civilian law enforcement agencies, federal law, it can't be enforced through the normal means, then there's a legal mechanism that allows troops on American soil for law enforcement purposes to come along and support them. Now, you can accuse people of anything. So, well, this is what he's trying to do. You don't know that. You don't know that. You can't tell the future. You don't know that. And you don't even have a historical basis to provide anything to reason out your deal, okay?
Let me ask you this, Chad. Well, no, I'm going to ask you a question you obviously don't know the answer to, but how many of those ICE agents are actually National Guards?
I don't know. There's probably a lot of them.
Or State Guard. I guarantee you some of them are,
How many of those ICE agents are Hispanic or from the family of immigrants? Yeah. The point is, if you're going to look at this, the Insurrection Act is a last resort, okay? It's when the car is screeching and skidding off the side of the cliff, you pull the emergency brake. I showed you the clips a little while ago. How can anyone come into the live chat or come in here and say, Trump's trying to be a dictator again? They're putting bricks through the car windows of federal vehicles and stealing documents out, weapons out, and you're saying, and local law enforcement ain't going to do that. You just heard Tim Walz. You just heard the state senator from Minnesota saying, hey, it's okay to do that. Why don't you fix your own, you pinhead? Fix your own. Quit worrying about what Donnie T's doing. Quit worrying about what Kristi Noem's doing. You guys are burning your cities down. At what point in time are you going to say, enough's enough? Stop acting like ruthless toddlers that are throwing a tantrum because you can't find your pappy. At what point in time are you going to correct yourselves?
They don't want that to happen. They want their city to burn. They want to blame Trump for it. Period.
Stop. You don't want the Insurrection Act? Stop destroying your cities. Stop attacking law enforcement officers. Stop burning things down. Don't drive your car into somebody in front of you. Stop blocking traffic. Stop it. Stop with your riots that you call protests. It's that simple. You don't have to worry about it. You don't want Trump to put out the Insurrection Act? Then stop acting like a damn fool. It's simple. The ball's in your court, pinhead. Stop acting like a fool. If the lawmakers in Minnesota won't do anything about it, and the law and the courts won't do anything about it, guess what? We have a place in this country. It was used in the Civil War and Reconstruction, desegregation enforcement in the 1950s and 1960s, and 1992 Los Angeles riots when the local authorities got overwhelmed. Insurrection Act got used. It wasn't martial law because the courts still work. Local law enforcement still has authority. If you got martial law, that's something different. That's extreme. That's unwritten. That's emergency conditions. That's end of the world right there. Because that's when you take civilian authority and you completely suspend that. Nobody's threatening that. You got military commanders that are governing directly. Nobody's threatening that. You close down the civil courts. Military tribunals replace the court system. Nobody's threatening that. You got curfews. You got travel restrictions. You got detention without normal due process. You got constitutional rights that might be limited in practice. Nobody's threatening that. Nobody wants that. But you guys are going to jump in the chat because it sounds good because your little brainwashed heads can't process the truth when people are tearing things down. You know what? I'm going to go somewhere and buy a bunch of coffee for these ICE agents, man.
I think it's time for two things or three things, really. It's time to stop the federal funding of that state, shut that down. And then the next thing is to sue the federal government to sue that state for all the extra money that it's cost them in damages and having to have extra people
but here's the problem
to do their job.
You're so draconian. Gosh, Steve, why are you so mean?
Oh, dude.
It goes back to the same thing with Iran. There's good people in the state of Minnesota.
I know, but I like the swift and...
I know, but you're punishing the civilians.
Yeah.
You're punishing the population and not the people like Tim Walz who had to be held accountable. Hello, Pam Bondi. Anybody out there, can somebody knock on her skull and just ask her, is anybody home? I mean, can Pam Bondi do anything similar to, exacting some justice of consequences out there? I mean, Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader of the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, has now threatened payback once the Democrats return to power. Anybody in the chat want to focus on that, maybe? I mean, can we, before you worry about what Orange Man Bad is doing, listen to what Hakeem had to say.
So every single one of these people who we see brutalizing the American people. They're going to be held accountable one way or the other, accordance with the law. And the statute of limitations, this is for every single member of the Trump administration, is 5 years. Donald Trump will be long gone. Left 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Statute of limitations will be alive and well. And there'll be a lot of people in this country, patriotic people, determined to make sure those who broke the law with impunity during the Trump administration are held accountable.
Good. Go after Tim Walz.
No, that's not what he's saying.
I know.
He's going to go after you. He's going to go after you.
Yeah. Bring it.
If you're conservative, he's going after you. So what's it going to be? Those of you in the chat, where are you smart Alex now? Anybody? I mean, really, is that something you want to break off and chew on, Hakeem? Like, can we pull up just pull up that red stag picture again? Where's it at?
Yeah, let's turn from one sort of violence to a good kind of violence.
That's a good kind of violence. You know what's funny? And I'm just saying without saying, I shot that at 300 yards. That was one shot. Boom, dropped where it stood. And, my heart rate didn't elevate when I did it. I didn't get an adrenaline rush. Like there was no tingles when I did it. No, I just did it. It was part of the day.
Well, I'm glad you took the leash off of it.
I mean, I'm just telling you, Steve.
That's a nice looking. Is that a reindeer?
It's a red stag.
Oh, okay.
Pay attention to the point I'm trying to make.
Hey, my granddaughter, every deer is a reindeer.
Hey, listen. The guys like Hakeem Jeffries want to threaten conservatives who go out and do that on the daily. We've had our hands dipped in blood, dumbass. The point is, pay attention to who you're threatening. You don't want to bite off that piece of jerky, dude, because you can't chew it. I'm just telling you, you can't chew it. The people who love law and order are the people who have the most restraint. You want to talk about taking the leash off of something. I'm telling you, these guys are playing with fire. Playing with fire. These guys, people in the chat want to talk trash.
I might go kill something today. So
how I went hunting. Y'all go hunting with me. Y'all see how it is. Y'all make you jokes. Let me tell you real quick before we get out of here. I gotta get to the Pinheads. Let me just tell you about our friends over at American Financing real quick. You got those credit card bills, 28, 29% interest. Quit all that. Listen, if you're a homeowner, there's a better way to do it. There's no better time than calling American Financing. Wipe out the debt, eliminate the stress, set yourself up strong in the new year. The Fed dropped the rates for the 4th time in December. American Financing can help you access the equity in your home. Get all those credit card bills paid off. They got some rates going on in the low fives. Average family is saving $800 a month. That's a $10,000 a year raise. You need that, okay? So call them on the phone, 888-961-4143. That's 888-961-4143. You can visit AmericanFinancing.net/chat. AmericanFinancing.net/Chad. Check them out over there. Give them a call. They help you out. Oh, and by the way, they work on salary, not commissions. All right, let's go to the Pinheads of the day. Ready? Go.
I thought the whole show was the Pinheads of the day.
It pretty much was. We're the biggest pinheads because we don't hold anybody accountable. There's no consequences.
Yeah.
Boom. All right, Oprah Winfrey. She says you don't overeat and become obese, by the way. Play the clip.
All these years, I thought I was overeating. I was standing there with all the food noise, what I ate, what I should eat, how many calories was that, how long was it going to take. I thought that was because of me and my fault. Yeah. Now I understand that if you carry the obesity gene, if that is what you have, that is what makes you overeat. You don't overeat and become obese. Right. Obesity causes you to overeat.
Right.
Obesity causes you to have all of that food noise. And what the GLP-1s have done for me, and I know a number of other people, is to quiet that noise.
Yeah.
All these years.
Look at him looking at her like, oh, she's so wise.
It's too late, Oprah. You made millions of women fat.
So wise. So wise. Look at her. Oh, she's so wise. Oh. This idiot's telling you that if you got a certain genetic disposition, it's going to make you want to eat more. I mean, we all, you know what it's called? It's called gluttony, Oprah. It's a spiritual condition.
I think I might got it. I had 3 lunches
we
yesterday.
all fight it. It's called gluttony, you know? And it's the problem is we have never denied ourselves anything. And we live in a society of self-indulgence, which Oprah is the epitome of that. You get this, and you get this, and you get this. All you did was show up for a show on giveaway day. You didn't earn it. Oprah ran her mouth for a living, became a billionaire, arguably the most influential woman in the history of the world.
100%.
And going to sit there and preach to you about you got a genetic disposition to lack self-control. You do. It's called sin. It's called gluttony. It's called sin. God says he hates it, actually. And to say, well, that's why I'm sticking a needle in myself, because it helps feed that inner appetite. Well, the cross can do that too, Oprah. I'll tell you. What they're trying to do is they're trying to turn it into a disability, Steve.
Yeah, they are.
You don't blame the person who can't control themselves. They're victimized. It's all this victim culture. That's all that is. So that's all that is. Another one. Here's a. I'll just play it.
Sure. And let's say.
Well, you got to tell them the youth is trolling the libs.
The youth is trolling the libs here, please.
Stop Trump, everybody. Hold your hand out. Stop Trump. Stop Trump. Trump, sucks, everybody.
Don't hold your hand out. Don't hold your hand out.
No,
he's trying to go.
Oh, no, I wasn't doing all that.
Yeah, you were. I know.
Dude literally got her to throw the sig heil up
And
there.
let's say, stop Trump, everybody. Hold your hand out. Stop Trump. Stop Trump. Trump, sucks, everybody.
There you go. There you go. Oh my gosh.
I think the young people I think they're leaning more and more to liking Trump. The young men.
Well, I think they're leaning more and more to some common sense, and they're at least willing to have a conversation, think a little more critically, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
That so many people aren't willing to be open to that. We got to go, Steve, but I was kind of fired up this morning on Before the Noise.
Dude, it's a great message hit home to me as usual. I feel like you're always talking right to me.
I am. I write it just for you, dude. When I put those notes together, and I see some of the people who are all fired up there in the chats. I'm looking at different chats here. I'm reading them. Some of the people get angry, they get upset. And again, I talk about these people, the Athenians in ancient Athens that Paul encountered in Acts chapter 17, who thought themselves so wise philosophically, thought they had all the answers. They don't have the answers. Listen, none of us have all those answers. We don't. We think we do. You can argue this stuff. You want to come on here. And whatever. You're regurgitating. What was it? You just came in here, you want to troll on here, you want to recommend a book that everybody, or some writing that somebody, see, you're just regurgitating everybody else's ideas, dude. You haven't thought it. Where's your original thought? Where's your original idea? You won't tell everybody to go over there and buckle up after they read that. Why don't you tell us your ideas? Why don't you engage your mind? See, they're just regurgitating everybody else's seed pluckers. Isn't that what we talked about, the babblers? Yeah. So, and I mean, again, you're going to say all of a sudden, you call all the names in the world. You can try to insult and everything. Hey, listen, you're not getting your ideas across. I'm teaching you a better way. Learn to think critically and do your thing. And then you won't have to try to prove to the live chat how smart you are while all you're doing is proving your ignorance. Okay? Simple. Because we're open to debate and discussion and dialogue. Simple. But everybody wants to come on and call names. And I've spent enough time trying to argue with people who simply spent too much time in the birth canal. Like your head got squeezed way too long before you ever hit formative moments and learned how to talk. And you're still processing things through whoever the puppet masters are trying to tell you what to say. It's okay. It's sympathy is what I'm giving you. It's sympathy. So anyway, go call Mama. She'll give you more minutes on the phone. Party Foul Steve, I love you, buddy.
I love you too, brother.
I'm gonna give everybody a final word. We're gonna get out of here. Y'all follow him at Party Foul Steve. I love him so much. He'll be with us in Conroe next week. Gonna have that show at Lucy Blues, and then we're gonna do the live show down in Kemah. Check the schedule. Watch chat. Hit like before you get out of here, and make sure you're subscribed to the channels: YouTube, Rumble. Go to where podcasts are offered. Leave us a rating review for Above the Noise. Before the Noise, as well as the Chad Prather Show. Do all of that. Helps us in the rankings. We're at this moment where you, as conservatives, you got to decide what kind of people you're going to be. See, so many people out there, you've created an identity based on what you oppose. The people in the chat, all this stuff. You have created an identity based on what you're angry about. What kind of men and women we're becoming when we look at a culture that's shaking at its core. You know, panic, and we saw that in these riots, these protests, people breaking in. Panic is contagious. This is operating out of fear, right? As I said earlier, Trump became a symbolic threat. You can't discuss his policies for or against them. And there's plenty that I'm against. There's a lot of things that I'm like, I don't think we should do it that way. But again, I'm not in that position. I get to talk about it. But I'll tell you what else is contagious, not just panic, but being steady, resolve, wisdom. Wisdom is always going to outlast your outrage. And the trap that so many people are falling into right now is believing that if you just stay constantly alarmed by something, that's vigilance. That's not right. Because if you're constantly alarmed or panicked or outraged, you're going to lose your judgment. You're going to be mad at everything. You're not going to be able to think because you can't think when you're angry. And every disagreement you get into is going to be a threat. And everything that happens in our world is going to be doomsday. I'm exhausted by that. You're exhausted by that. True conservatism, which is, by the way, at its core, the ability to govern yourself. That's as limited as government gets. Has never been about hysteria. It's about restraint. It's about order, discipline. It's about learning from history with a long memory and being able to think clearly and critically under pressure. The people who built this country, listen to me there in the chat, the people who built this country were pretty smart men. Wouldn't you agree with me? Yeah. They didn't live in perpetual outrage. They lived with a sense of personal responsibility. They planted trees they would never sit under. They held a certain line even when the emotions were running high and the musket balls were flying. See, that's our inheritance, man. I don't honor what they built by being reactive to everything. I honor it by honoring what they built and being immovable and unmovable in those truths, that foundational truth. Because if we can agree that certain foundational things matter, then when we disagree on the periphery, we could still come back together on the fundamentals. So I'm not going to let the algorithm or the latest blog post on Reddit decide my emotional state. I'm going to refuse to let rage replace reason. I'm going to refuse to let fear define my worldview. Because there's real problems out there. Yeah, there's institutions that have failed. And no, I don't want an insurrection act. I don't want any of that stuff to happen. I want people to go home and raise their families and take care of their priorities. And let's get the country back into a place of law and order. We got cultural forces out there that are very hostile, but panic doesn't fix civilization. Your despair and anxiety, your fear-mongering and your rage-baiting, it doesn't preserve civilization. You know what does? Character. When the pressure hits, it shows your character. It's like a tube of toothpaste. You get squeezed, what's in you comes out. So strong individuals, strong faith, strong families, strong communities, strong minds that can hold complexity without collapsing into paranoia or even apathy when things go, I'm just going to quit. You don't win by shouting louder than the mob. You win by being harder to move than what the mob expects. And the only way you could do that is you've built truth into your life. And there's a calmness about you when entropy sets in. There's a discipline about you when others like Oprah can't put down the fork and wants to blame it on other people. It's being thoughtful, full of thought, when other people are trying to simplify everything because they can't pay attention to anything longer than 8 seconds. And being grounded in history and truth, and other people are floating from outrage to outrage. Because the future doesn't belong to the people that are barking online. It belongs to the people who are secure and anchored in real life. So this is a moment we've got in front of us. We got to stand on something solid. Truth, virtue, faith, courage, patience, conviction. I don't need the hysteria. And how you outlast the moral panics, how you lead without all the shouting going on. That's how you build something worth passing on to the next generation. We got people out there that want to burn America to the ground. I don't think we should do that. I don't agree with them. But I'm not going to react to their chaos. But I'm going to refuse to become that chaos myself, okay? Critical thinking, folks. Critical thinking. We've got to have it. Got to have it. Let it be some calm. That's why I encourage you. Start your day with me, with Before the Noise. It'll bring a little calm to you. Get you fired up in the truth. Get you equipped. And you can join me at joinabovethenoise.com. Go even deeper. All right? Birch Gold, Chad to 989898, takelean.com, use promo code Chad, patriot-protect.com/Chad, americanfinancing.net/Chad. Check them all out. Let them help you out. We'll be back tomorrow morning on Before the Noise for Party Foul Steve and David Medina. Follow him at David Medina, as well as at Party Foul Steve. You can find me at watchchad.com. Find my live schedules right there on the homepage. Come hang out with us. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, do all those things. Thank you for participating in the chat. You leave us a 5-star rating where podcasts are offered. Go over there and listen to it. I love you guys. God bless you. And if you haven't gotten my book, I'll remind you, Born for Meaning. Go get it. Go get it. It's on Amazon. Of course it is. All right? I'll talk to you in the morning. God bless you. Till then, bye.